Sometimes after a game like that, all you can do is sigh. It's not that the Sacramento Kings played a bad game, it's that the loss takes a lot of the wind out of the positives of what maybe should have been a Sacramento Kings win. And the reality is we all want to blame the referees, but the Kings just can't fully. We'll talk about it on today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10. Before we get into this game, first and foremost, it's so great being back in this building for actual meaningful Kings basketball. The vibes were fantastic. It was a sold-out crowd. So many of you Locked On Kings listeners approached me, said hi. Really appreciate you more than you could possibly know. It was so good to be back. Unfortunately, a lot of the fun that we were having with the pregame festivities died pretty quickly with how this first quarter started. It was a 45-minute quarter. It took 45 minutes to play the first 12 minutes of this game. That's because there were so many fouls in that first quarter that neither team really got off to any kind of rhythmic start. Now, when the Kings did get a rhythm in the second quarter, things were a lot better. We'll get to that, but I want to start with something that is kind of a controversial debate happening right now, at least amongst my Sacramento Kings Twitter followers, and that's that I believe as much as we all want to, myself included, want to just take this game, blame it on the refs, and throw it out, the Kings simply cannot do that. And you're going to hear in a little bit from head coach Mike Brown that he puts a lot of ownership on this game on his team, had some pretty serious criticisms of this Kings team and how they look now compared to how they looked in training camp. Again, we're going to get to all of that, but I know there are many of you maybe yelling right now saying, absolutely, Matt, you can blame the refs for this game. The refs did this, the refs did that, the foul discrepancy or disparity between the two teams. I hear you. The reality is the Sacramento Kings were not good enough in the closing moments of this game to win. The Portland Trail Blazers were better when it mattered. The Sacramento Kings were the better team tonight. That doesn't mean anything when you don't get the final result that you maybe deserve. Ultimately, here's what I saw towards the end of the game that just quite frankly wasn't good enough. Now, I'm starting with De'Aaron Fox simply because he is the star of this team. Listen to me very, very carefully. I do not blame De'Aaron Fox by any means for this loss. In the next segment, we're going to talk about the positives from this Kings win. And De'Aaron Fox is at the absolute top of that positives list. But here's the reality. In the fourth quarter, De'Aaron Fox only had 6 points. He had 3 turnovers. His last made field goal came with 4 minutes and 51 seconds remaining in the game. You need your star to get you over that hump at times in games like these that are coming down to the wire. De'Aaron Fox didn't do that. It wasn't just him. Domantas Sabonis, just 2 points in the fourth quarter, also had a turnover, I believe. Now, Sabonis had a rough game overall if you're looking at the stat column, finishing with 13 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. We expect better from Domantas Sabonis. We expect better from a 2-time All-Star. We expect more from someone who we talk about so much as the focal point of the offense, which he was. He did some great things, especially in the pick and roll tonight, but those numbers have to be better from your second best player consistently if Sacramento wants a chance to win. Domantas Sabonis had to be better not just in the fourth quarter, but in this entire game. There was a moment happened at this basket right over here. I'm standing on the baseline here of the Golden One Center. Terrence Davis had a monster tip dunk. Just maybe the dunk of his career, right? He comes over the top, dunks on Damian Lillard, puts Damian Lillard on a poster. Amazing moment. The problem is the celebration after that moment. The flex, standing over Damian Lillard. Now, there's part of me that says, give the man his props, let him celebrate a massive moment at a crucial point in a big game, in a close game. Let him celebrate that major dunk. The problem was not the initial celebration. The problem was who he was standing over during that celebration. Had Damian Lillard not been beneath him, had it been another player, maybe the result would have been different. I know some people have frustrations with that. The reality is if you're standing over a player of Damian Lillard's caliber and you're flexing on him and yelling, even if you're not directing it directly towards him, which I honestly don't believe Terrence Davis was, you're going to get that call. And Terrence Davis said himself in the post-game locker room media scrum that we got that he regrets that moment deeply because he feels that's where the game changed. I actually disagree with that. I think the game changed when, and this is a call I do strongly disagree with. The Kings got a good defensive stop on Damian Lillard on the other end of the floor here. Damian was attacking the basket. He fell down. He loses possession of the ball. Initially, we thought there was a foul called. Thank goodness there wasn't. The problem was Lillard trips over his own feet. He falls. He loses the ball. The ball hits the foot of the defender. I can't remember who it was. And a kick ball is called, giving possession back to the Portland Trail Blazers. From that point, I think Jeremy Grant got an and one, completed a three-point play. There was a three-point play in the possession after that really put the game away. That's where I feel this game got out of hand for Sacramento. And it sucks that it happened on a call that should not favor the team that makes the turnover or potential turnover or makes the mistake. If it's a foul call, that's one thing. It wasn't a foul call. Lillard fell over. He lost possession of the ball. If the ball happens to hit my foot, that's not my fault. Now, if Terrence Davis or whoever the defender was were to kick out their foot, kick the ball, okay, that's a kick ball. That's a legitimate kick ball. That's not what I saw. What I saw was the ball fall out of Damian Lillard's possession, happened to hit a Kings defender's foot, and therefore the Blazers are rewarded with possession. Disagree with that call. Now, you might say, okay, right there is enough reason for me to say blame this game on the refs. Partially, I do agree. But there are still more things the Sacramento Kings did overall in the fourth quarter, overall in this game, that were not good enough. Like 16 Kings turnovers resulting in 18 Blazers points. Mike Brown pointed that out in his post-game press conference. Not good. Something that we didn't really see the Sacramento Kings do. Now, they did have a 20 turnover game, I think, against, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been against Portland, even though the Kings blew them out. That was not something that we saw consistently in preseason. And actually, I'm going to get out of the way. I want you to listen to some of the things that Mike Brown had to say in his post-game press conference because he owned the mistakes that the Kings made. No mention of the referees, no mention of the fouls. Of course, we didn't ask him about it because we don't want the guy to get fined. But he takes the onus on himself. And there's a couple things that he says here that I really want you to pay attention to, especially when he talks about how the team played in training camp versus how they look tonight.
For us tonight, I watched us do stuff in this game tonight that we haven't done all the preseason, all the training camp. The one thing we have done is fouled, and that was no different tonight. We gave up 33 free throws, and you give up 33 free throws, 11 offensive rebounds, and then you have 16 turnovers for 18 points. Right there, the possession game's out the window, and you're not giving yourself much of a chance to win. I'm excited to go watch the film, as crazy as it sounds, because I did not recognize the team that was out there most of the night. I thought the guys tried to compete, okay, but they didn't compete the right way, and we lost the game because of it. We probably played, out of a 48-minute game, we probably played about 15 minutes the right way, which isn't good. And a lot of guys got their number, but we gave up middle drives. We didn't crack back when they drove the basketball to keep guys off the backside. We gave up offensive rebounds. They scored 22 points in the paint just in the third quarter alone. We went one-on-one way too much tonight. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen us go one-on-one the way we did tonight this many times, combine the whole 4 preseason games and practice.
A lot of good stuff there from Mike Brown. The thing that stands out the most to me is that when the lights were brightest, when the games actually mattered, Sacramento was not what they have been over the last less than a month during training camp, during preseason. He said it there. The team that he saw was not the same team tonight. That's a problem. That, to me, speaks directly to the culture in Sacramento, the losing culture of the Sacramento Kings organization that Mike Brown is trying to fix. Old, bad habits die hard. And even if there are a lot of new faces on this Kings team, there are still a lot of bad habits that plague this organization that Sacramento is going to have to fight and scratch and claw to get over. Now, cultures don't change overnight. We didn't expect one training camp to get rid of all the Sacramento Kings troubles. It's good to know to some degree that the same troubles are there, but that even in a game where the Kings still made a lot of mistakes, they had a chance to win. The problem is, the reason why you had a chance to win is because you were playing an opponent that's probably on the same tier than you. And maybe I misspoke in my press conference, or rather my pregame preview episode of Locked On Kings and my crossover with Mike Richmond of Locked On Blazers. Maybe I misspoke saying that Sacramento Kings are a better team than the Portland Trail Blazers. I still think they are. The Blazers were the better team on the night when it comes to the result. Still think the Sacramento Kings deserve to win this game, but none of that matters. The final score tells the ultimate story, right? The Sacramento Kings and Portland Trail Blazers are going to be, more than likely, fighting each other in the standings when it's all said and done. Even if this is game number 1 of the season, it's definitely not a must-win. You got plenty more to fix these errors. You're going to have other shots at the Portland Trail Blazers to correct this mistake and get back at those guys. But in the end, we could see these two teams coming down to it. And if the Sacramento Kings are really trying to be the better team, if they're really trying to grow exponentially, how we are hoping they can grow, these are games that they have to close out and do better at. But there were positives from this game. Let's talk about the positives from this game after I tell you about a great sponsor here of the Locked On Kings podcast, BetOnline. Now, the Kings were betting favorites heading into this game. So if you were feeling the Kings vibes, you feeling the Kings positivity, hey, you can blame me if you want to. Maybe you didn't make money tonight. But you Kings pessimists out there, if you thought that Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers were going to look significantly better than they did in the preseason game, I don't blame you. I expected them to look better too. I still didn't expect them to get this win. So maybe you made money off of your pessimism. Regardless, whether you're an optimist, a pessimist, if you like to bet on the Kings or you want to avoid the Kings betting like the plague, there are other fantastic games out there for you. All season long here in the NBA and college basketball, BetOnline.net has you covered. Plus, they're the number 1 spot right now for all your football betting, college and NFL. With the MLB playoffs going on right now, BetOnline has you covered for all of that. And if you're into like MMA fights, boxing, golf, plenty there for you on betonline.net. It's the absolute number 1 place for all your sports gambling. Plus, they keep you up to date with everything going on with podcast news and information as well. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. I was so ready to record a positive Locked On Kings podcast tonight because there were a lot of things from this game that I really liked. Now, you heard Mike Brown say that he only thought like 15 of the 48 minutes were good, but during those 15 minutes, boy, the Kings did some really, really good things. And it's only right that I start with De'Aaron Fox. I've been very critical of Fox. We've put a lot of pressure on De'Aaron Fox. Fox needs to get off to a strong start, right? The weight on Fox's shoulders is heavy even if he has more help. The spotlight is shining brightest on De'Aaron Fox right now. Well, you know what? He embraced that tonight. He put together a 33-point, 5 of 9 3-point shooting, 7 rebound, 7 assist performance that won a lot of Kings fans' jerseys on my Locked On Kings giveaway that I did on Twitter. But in addition to that, De'Aaron Fox stepped up for the Sacramento Kings on a night where, especially early offensively, the Kings weren't really getting anything going. I give De'Aaron a ton of props because this is the kind of star performance that the Sacramento Kings rely on from Fox at times. Now, hopefully they don't need this from Fox every night for the Kings to have a chance. If so, the Kings are probably going to really struggle this year. But this is what you need out of your top guy. This is what you need out of your star. Fox came out of the gate firing, fearless from 3-point range, hit his first 2 or 3 3-pointers, looked really, really good. That opened his game attacking the basket a little bit, forced defenders to respect his 3-point game. Now, he did have a decision right here in the corner, right next to me, where he took a 3 to try and tie the game late instead of taking the baseline lane that was available to him to maybe put the game within 1 or maybe get to the foul line. Regardless, even if there were questions about his decision-making and his overall offensive output towards the end of this game, I don't blame De'Aaron Fox for this loss at all. De'Aaron was really, really good. I give him all the props in the world. Also, Kevin Huerter was fantastic, was he not? In his Sacramento Kings debut, 23 points, 6 of 9 from three-point range, some major three-pointers for the Kings, sometimes to stop the bleeding, sometimes to really get the runs going for Sacramento. Also had 3 rebounds in this game. Like, when your backcourt, your starting backcourt combines for 56 points, you're in a really, really good spot. Kevin Huerter looked fantastic. Can we rely on 23 points a night from Kevin? Probably not. That's where it's a bummer that on games like this where you're getting that kind of output from your starting backcourt, when you're getting 23 points from Kevin Huerter and a 33-point performance from De'Aaron Fox, these are games the Sacramento Kings just need to win. Need to win. I also thought Terrence Davis was really, really good in this game. And I got to give him some love because I honestly think I underestimated Terrence Davis in a lot of ways coming into this season. I said multiple times, I don't know where Terrence works his way into the rotation. Well, Terrence Davis, through some of his play in preseason and his play tonight, with the exception of that tip dunk technical foul, and I don't think that undermines all the great stuff that he did by any means. I think Terrence Davis might have to be a part of the Kings rotation nightly, especially if he plays like this. Now, Davis in the past has been a streaky player, and if he is on a cold streak, maybe that could come back to hurt the Sacramento Kings. But what I've seen from Davis for the most part in preseason, what I saw from Davis in this game, very, very pleased with. I thought he made some good plays defensively as well. Had a really good moment where he forced a steal, got out in transition and scored for the Sacramento Kings. I was just really pleased with what I saw from Terrence. And if he can provide that kind of offensive and sometimes defensive output for the Kings with that second unit, I think there are a lot of times where the Kings are going to be in good shape because of that. So even with that moment that Davis highly regrets, that technical foul that he feels changed the momentum of the game in the fourth quarter, I choose to look at that dunk. I choose to look at the other things that he did and highlight that more than that technical foul, because in reality, that was just 1 point. The second quarter for the Sacramento Kings was excellent. The second quarter, the Kings scored 32 points, went on a 16-1 run at one point during that quarter, and only allowed 19 points. Now here's the big thing. Here's where we transition from the positives into the negatives. The other 3 quarters, the Kings gave up 32 points, 33 points, and 31 points. De'Aaron Fox said after the game, if you're giving up 30 points in 3 out of 4 quarters, it's really, really tough to win. That's what's crazy, is the fact that defensively, the Kings had 3 bad quarters and still were so much into this game. At 1, that speaks to the offensive firepower that this team has, and 2, again, that speaks to, in my mind, how close these two teams are, and maybe in some ways how the Sacramento Kings should be better. Unfortunately, defensively, the Kings weren't there tonight. The Kings did not provide defensively what Mike Brown's standards are. I think you heard a lot of that in some of his post-game conference. Harrison Barnes finished with 9 points and 8 rebounds, and I saw a lot of people on social media talking about Harrison Barnes' defense not being good. And ultimately, I didn't see, or I wasn't paying enough attention to Harrison Barnes' defense to have too many comments on that at this point in time. I'm going to go back and watch some of the highlights, watch this game over again, and really pay attention to Harrison Barnes' defense before I dive deep into that. I don't know if I'm not saying that I don't trust Twitter. It's not something that I noticed, because it's not something that I was really looking for, to be completely honest with you. Even that being said, I thought Harrison Barnes, despite having a near double-double, I thought he was a pretty significant non-factor tonight, especially in a game where, had he been a little bit better, the Sacramento Kings would have won. Speaking of non-factors, someone like Richaun Holmes played like 17, 18 minutes in this game, only had 2 points, didn't really do much, and Richaun we're calling one of the best backup centers in the NBA. If Domantas Sabonis, even if on a game where Sabonis is not having the best of nights, if Sabonis is off the floor and Richaun Holmes is in those minutes, you need more out of him. And then Davion Mitchell. I thought Davion didn't have a bad game, but let me start here. Davion Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox shared the floor a lot tonight. And when the two were on the floor together, that's when the Kings had their best stretches. It's not just because of those two, but I'm saying the two of them played well together. The Kings went to like a 3 or 4 guard lineup at one point, and that's really what got the ball rolling during that second quarter. So it's great to see the two of them being able to share the floor effectively. Davion, I thought, played solid to great defense for the most part tonight. The issue is you're only getting 2 points from Davion Mitchell in 25, 26 minutes. You need more. You need more offensively from Davion in that spot, especially with what we saw from Davion at the end of last season. I don't think, and I've been on record saying, I don't think how Davion offensively ended last season was who Davion was as an offensive player. But it showed us what he's capable of being. And It's not that I didn't think he was looking for his shot enough. I thought at times he took good shots, he just didn't make them. You need more offensively. If we're being nitpicky, you need more offensively from Davion Mitchell there. Then we talk about like some Kings team stats here, right? The fact that the Sacramento Kings had 25 fouls. Again, you can blame the refereeing for a lot of them, for the foul discrepancy. That's fine. They sent Portland to the free throw line 33 times. Portland made 26 of 33. 26 points in this game from the free throw line. That's how Portland was able to win this game. Meanwhile, Sacramento got to the free throw line 19 times. So 19 to 23, it's a big, big discrepancy. Again, if you want to blame the refs for that, I guess you can. I don't fully, but I understand at moments in this game what you're talking about. Let me put it this way. There were 17,000 people at one point chanting, "Ref, you suck." And there were a couple times when they were chanting, "Ref, you suck." And they had a point a couple times, to say the least. But for the Kings to not only get to the line 19 times, but to only hit 13 of them, to leave 6 points at the line, it's another thing that adds up in close games like this. I want to talk about KZ Okpala really quickly too. He scored 0 points in this game. I'm not freaking out about that by any means. I am disappointed by the fact that KZ Okpala did pick up 3 quick fouls in the first quarter, because that meant he didn't come back in until like the very, very, very end of the second quarter. And I thought, with the exception of the fouls, I thought he did a good job guarding Damian Lillard in the first quarter. At the time that KZ Okpala came out of the game with 3 personal fouls, Dame only had 4 points. So KZ, I thought, was doing his job defensively. Offensively, there's still major question marks, a major hole. I don't think that's the reason why the Kings got off to a slow start. So I was okay, for the most part, with what KZ did, other than the fouls, which was not just a him problem, it was the Kings team problem as a whole. I'm not saying that if Keegan Murray had played in this game, the Kings absolutely would have won, but I'm not saying that either. I think Keegan Murray, I think tonight in a lot of ways showed us how important Keegan Murray is to this team. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Kings looked really, really good, looked their best at times offensively during the preseason when Keegan Murray was on the floor. I really think had Keegan played in this game, the Kings' win chances would have gone up significantly more than they already were. And hopefully, Keegan Murray will be available for the Kings on Saturday. All signs point to him being available for the Kings on Saturday against the Los Angeles Clippers. He participated in shoot-around this morning, so he returned to the team. He has cleared health and safety protocols, so he's participating with the team again. He was at during warm-ups and things before the game. He was shooting around, so he's back with the team. Coach Brown wants him to get a practice or 2 in before returning. The Kings have 2 off days now, Thursday and Friday, before Saturday's game against the Clippers. All signs point to Keegan Murray playing against the Los Angeles Clippers. I think that's a big deal. I think that's a really, really big deal. Again, I'm not going to say that had a rookie played in this game, the Kings absolutely would have won. And I understand some people going, we can't rely so much on a rookie who hasn't even played a real NBA game yet to put that much on him. I get that, 100%. I'm just saying I think Keegan Murray is already an extremely significant piece on this Kings team, and he would have made a major difference in this game, in my opinion. But time will tell. And here's the reality, too. If the Kings get off to as slow of a start offensively against the Clippers as they did tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers, unless their defense really is on point, there's a good chance that they fall so far behind that it takes their absolute best just to get back into it. So the Kings need to correct their offense coming out of the gate. They need to correct their defense without fouling. They need to correct their free throw shooting. And then if this game goes down to the wire on Saturday, hopefully their late game execution is significantly better. But again, there's so many positives, truly positives from this game that I want to take out. I just can't because of that final score. Or I can, I recognize them, I appreciate them, but they're brushed under the rug a little bit by that final score. Kings lose, they're 0-1, their next 4 opponents, really, really difficult. I know a lot of people are looking at the schedule and saying, man, 0-5 is a real possibility. Yes, it is. Welcome to the NBA. For the most part, with the exception of the bottom of the Western Conference, every single team on a nightly basis is going to be a tough uphill battle for Sacramento. And they got to learn how to handle that uphill battle, and in games like tonight, when it's there for them, they have to learn how to close and win games that, quite honestly, they should have won. If you want to respond to anything that I said, you want to tell me I'm wrong and I'm an idiot for not putting more blame on the referees, if that makes you feel better, go for it. Definitely go for it. But to all of you, on all seriousness, who I met, who I talked to here at the game tonight. You're all phenomenal. Thank you so much for all the kind words. Thanks for your support. And thank you to everybody for listening and watching the Locked On Kings podcast. We'll be back for more podcasts later on this week. Of course, a post-game pod after Saturday's game against the Clippers, a post-game pod after Sunday's game against the Warriors. Welcome to the regular season, everybody. Kings have 2 days to correct some mistakes and get ready for those tough games. Hopefully, we're not talking about 0-3 by the start of next week. Can't wait. Till next time. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.